Hi, my name is Aparna and I will be studying in Loughborough University this year. And in this video, I will be sharing some advice on how to do well in A-levels, even during a pandemic. The first tip is to utilize your free periods, and that is use your study center or a library or even a cafe to get your homework done or even studying. So in this way, you could have more spare time at home, because generally what happens is you might have a lot of work to do during sixth form, say about 4 hours of homework or 2 to 3 hours, and you can do most of it at school and spare more time at home so you can catch up on any Netflix series or anything you like to do, rather than just doing all the work you need to do at home. Also, this gives you more time to even do any further reading or extra studying as well. Now, tip number 2 is to always ask questions in class or tell any problems you have with your coursework or with some certain topics in your course to your teacher. This way you could learn topics properly, and you wouldn't have doubts in these topics when exams or tests come up in these areas as well. Because this is what I did for maths mainly, and I found it much easier. Tip number 3 is to use past papers effectively, and I mean, say you could do a past paper a day in a subject, and maybe do like another past paper in another subject in another day, but try to do past papers as often as you can, because that would really help when tests or exams come up. And also, say if you have if your exam board is OCR, say in maths, also try other exam boards like AQA or Edexcel, because the more exam boards you do, the more you learn about different answers, and some of these can be applicable to your tests if you haven't, say, done the question before when you practice the past paper, and it could also be useful for your final exams as well. Tip number 4 is try to use the internet to also learn stuff, whether it's from YouTube videos or websites. There are many useful websites that you could use to learn some of the content. For example, Khan Academy. There's also useful YouTube videos. For example, Michael Van Biesen and a couple of others. And this is mainly for like physics or maths, but if you're doing other subjects as well, you could find YouTube videos for them, and I think that would really help a lot. Now, my final tip is for coursework, and this is because I did computing. So if you want to do really well in your coursework, you have to start as early as possible, and make sure you choose if you have to do a project, make sure you choose something that you know something about or you're really passionate about, because if you don't, then I think you'd have to change later on and you wouldn't have much time to finish it. And also, if you choose something that you know or you really like, you'd probably have a good knowledge of it and you can really elaborate on it and get good grades. So these are my few tips on how to do well in sixth form, and since I did maths, physics and computing, I would share some tips here. If you're doing physics, I would say practice a lot of past papers, because people think the textbook's enough, but it really isn't, because most of the mark scheme answers are the ones that actually count for your exam. And if you just learn the textbook, you wouldn't really know what answers to put in the exam. So I would say memorize as many mark scheme answers as you can. For example, if you're asked what potential difference is, memorize the answer from the mark scheme, and also like memorize certain methods for it as well. For maths, I would also say the same thing, do a lot of past papers, but in here, just don't memorize the method, just try to like apply your knowledge that you've learned from class or from your textbook or from like certain YouTube videos that you could use for maths. For example, you could use Khan Academy if you want to learn about statistics or mechanics, and then you could apply your knowledge here, or you can apply your knowledge from what you've learned in class. And also, if you've made a mistake in one question from a past paper, you could learn from that and try to remember that for any other problem that you would encounter. And my final tip is for computing, and I would say if you're doing computing, you'd have to practice a lot of programming, whether you're doing Java, Python, whatever your school does. You have to practice maybe say 2 hours per day, 1 hour per day, but always do some programming every day to be good in computing. Also, for the theory part, I would say memorize as many past papers as you can, because some of the answers can only be memorized. For example, I would say if you're doing like the ethical section in computing or certain topics like networking, you'd have to memorize certain keywords, and that is really important for your final exam. Thank you.